Hi, hello. This is Tutor from Uplatz training. Today, here we will be having a small overview of SAP S for Simple Finance HANA. So, why SAP Simple Finance have emerged? What are the advantages? And why most of the organizations are moving from simple ECC to Simple Finance? So, we will be learning all those things right now. So here in my first session, we will be learning about the overview of SAP S4 HANA on Finance, which is a very big SAP's biggest product. And here, this is a presentation as I've already discussed. Wanted to reach us, then contact us on training.uplus.com, email us at info@uplus.com, and telephone as this number given here. Yeah, we shall start the session. Now let's see what is the overview or what is the aim of this session. So what is the present aim of this session? So here in this session, we will be learning about the introduction to SAP Simple Finance HANA, and basically we will be seeing what are the key differences between SAP ECC and S4 HANA. Yeah, S4 HANA is actually interchangeably called as Simple Finance or HANA also, and it is a successor of your SAP ECC. Then we will be learning about what is the difference between SAP HANA and S4 HANA. There is much lot difference between SAP HANA and S4 HANA. So we will be learning those differences also. And then SAP on-premises solutions. So the SAP deployment options. So we have basically two deployment options in SAP. One is SAP on-premises solutions as well SAP on-cloud premises, on-cloud solutions. So we would be learning the difference between the on-premises as well as the on-cloud solutions here. Then we will be learning about the industries for solutions presently in S4 HANA. As well, we will define the reasons and benefits of implementing S4 HANA. So what are the reasons and the benefits of implementing S4 HANA in the organizations? Then we will see what is the thing covered in a course, then what are the responsibilities of a consultant, and what is the overview of the course. Now, so coming to our first introduction, we will be learning here what is SAP S4, what are its history, what is its history, what are the differences, and how it is going to work on, and what are the objectives we will be seeing here. So SAP S4 HANA was launched in 2015. So it was 2015, the SAP package have been launched, SAP S4 HANA, which is nothing but SAP Simple Finance HANA. And here S4 HANA stands for Suite for HANA. So here there's a much difference between your Suite for HANA and Suite on HANA. So basically it is Suite for HANA. So we'll see what is Suite for HANA and what's the difference between on HANA and for HANA. So Suite on HANA is very much different to Suite for HANA here. So Suite on HANA is nothing but SAP software running on SAP ECC running on HANA database. Now, prior to implementation of S4 HANA, organizations might be working on SAP ECC, which is nothing but your brownfield implementation. So in brownfield implementation, people or organizations were working on SAP ECC, that is called like any company already working on the existing SAP products or existing SAP launches, then that sort of product or that sort of project is called as a brownfield implementation. So here SAP ECC, when SAP ECC, the SAP ECC was basically working on HANA database. So we used to depend on the HANA database. So the database in SAP is nothing but HANA. We basically call it as SAP HANA. So suit on HANA means SAP ECC on HANA database. But when you talk about suit for HANA, so the difference is much lot here. Suite for HANA is nothing but it is a simplified data model, very simplified manner. That's why most of the organizations now they are migrating from ECC to S4 HANA. It is a very simplified data model, the model of the S4 HANA, and it is a improved user experience. Yeah, it's a very much improved user experience. Earlier in ECC we used to work on SAP GUIs or SAP GUI we used to tell, that is graphical user interface, which had got many disadvantages while drafting the reports or while pulling the reports. So here we have a very user experience, improved user experience through Fiori. Fiori is the SAP interface, like how in ECC SAP GUI was. Now in SAP S4 HANA we we execute reports based on SAP Fiori app. So it is a very improved user interface and very advantageous, beneficial user interface where you can view all the data at one place through Fiori app. And this can be used with the advanced technologies. Nowadays we have working with this advanced technologies like ML and AI, machine language and artificial intelligence. So on this advanced technologies also we can view the SAP reports through this Fiori app. Then S/4HANA, now it's available in 3 different versions. Earlier, when it was the startup stage in the implementation year, it was on-premise, private, and public cloud versions, what we used to call it as. Now, how in ECC we have got 4.0, 5.6, 6.0, 7.0 version, 7.2 versions. Here in S4 HANA, we have got 3 different versions. That is one is on-premises version, private version, as well as the public version, cloud version, what we call it as. But now these 3 has been replaced with a new names or new terminology, which is nothing but on-premises can be called or can be termed as any premise edition. So nowadays most of the organizations use a term instead of on-premise. They say it is an any premise edition. Then private is always called or termed as extended editions, and public or cloud version it is nothing but essential editions. So nevertheless it is also being called as on-premise, private and public also, but then it is replaced with the new technology, that is any premise edition, extended edition, as well as the essential edition. Now we'll be getting into the next continuation is SAP HANA. Is what is the main advantage of implementing SAP S4 HANA or migrating ECC based to S4 HANA? What is the main advantage is? It is an in-memory database. So basically SAP is an in-memory database, as well it is column oriented. So earlier it was a row oriented. We will have one with an example in the further sessions. So now it is through your column oriented reports. So basically we will be doing with the column oriented data. Earlier it was all through the row oriented. Now we will be doing with the column oriented, and it has got the relational database management system. So basically it has got the n number of relation database managements, which is called DBMS, and it is system developed and marketed by SAP S. So basically this particular S4 HANA is system developed and it is marketed by SAP SE. And the main primary function, or the SAP S4 HANA's primary function, is a database server. So basically it is a database server, and it is used, this database server is to store and retrieve data requested by the applications. So basically the main primary function of S4 HANA is its database server itself, where we can store the data and retrieve the data whenever requested by the applications itself. Basically, I can say it is a real-time data integration where the data can be stored as well as retrieved by the applications whenever at whatever time it is requested. And SAP Business Suite for SAP HANA is a business suite. Basically, it is a business suite for SAP HANA is a business suite. And what is that business suite is? It is basically built on SAP proprietary operational database system. So it is nothing but PODS. So earlier we used to have a different DBMS. Now we have a PODS, which is nothing but proprietary operational database system, and it is an in-memory computing system or in-memory computing platform called SAP HANA. So basically it has an in-memory computing in-memory computing platform, and that is where we call it as an SAP HANA. So here I can just brief it out. It is like nothing but it is one of the in-memory version SAP S4 HANA, and it is a column oriented as well as it has got many relational database management system. And now SAP Suite for HANA is totally based on SAP proprietary operational database system, and it is in-memory computing platform which is called as SAP HANA. Now the main functionality of this software is like data will be stored as well as it can be retrieved very often at whichever time or whichever point of time requested by the applications. Now let's see what are the differences between SAP S4HANA as well as SAP ECC. Priorly, before you are migrating from ECC to S4HANA, which is called brownfield implementation, we need to know what are the differences and what are the performance levels going to increase when we are migrating from ECC to S4HANA. So basically here I just wanted to give you information that we do have two types of implementations here: greenfield implementation as well as the brownfield implementation. Whenever we call it as brownfield implementation, it is nothing but organizations already working on a SAP ECC product now migrating to SAP S4 HANA. That is all about your brownfield implementation. Whereas greenfield implementation is nothing but from scratch, SAP was working on non-SAP system, that is some legacy system. Now it wanted to implement SAP S4 HANA directly instead of ECC. Then that sort of implementation is called as SAP Greenfield implementation. Now we will be learning what is the key differences between your SAP S4 HANA as well as SAP ECC products. So here when we talk about S4 HANA, we can see here it runs only on HANA database. Yeah, we are no ways or no need to depend on other database like we used to depend on ECC. So ECC was running on multiple databases like Oracle, SQL, other DBMS, so many DBMSs we have it. But now SAP S4 HANA will be working on its own database, nothing but SAP HANA database. And SAP S4 HANA functions on Fiori-based interfaces. So here we have very user-friendly reports that was possible through your Fiori app, which is the latest thing, where the interface is also very user-friendly in viewing the reports also. And yes, here we can view the reports, and we have an important concept called universal journal. We'll see in the coming steps. Whereas SAP HANA, SAP ECC was functioning on SAP GUI interface, which is nothing but graphical user interface. And here SAP S4 HANA is a high data processing and viable system performance. Yeah, here why the main difference, or why what is the main advantages of migrating from ECC to S4 HANA is is also a speed. Its speed, the way it drafts the reports, the way it pulls the reports, the speed, the frequency is very high here. The processing part is very high, and that's why this is one of why most of the organizations now implementing or migrating from SAP ECC to S4 HANA. It's a high data processing and a viable system performance. There are no many clutches in system performances. It is a very user friendly, and the viability is also such a high processing rate. But here, when you talk about SAP ECC, high chances of data issues and low performance. Yeah. So in drafting the reports or in viewing the reports, we have got a many high issues which we have already observing it in the present project, and the performance is also very low because there was no such viability where the other interfaces has it. So the viability of the reports was also very low. Here in SAP S4 HANA or Simple Finance HANA, reporting in single merged processor. So reporting was done in the single merge. Now, for example, we work on BW, BI reportings, business warehouse or business intelligent reporting. SAP ECC was had an internal tables, and we used to get the reports through BW or BI reportings, and that we have a single merged processor itself. Like this reporting will have was happening through OLAP processor or OLTP processor. So both the things are now merged into different processors. So here in ECC, it was two different processors having. One is on the other side was OLAP and the other side was OLTP. But in S4, SAP S4 HANA, both OLAP and OLTP was merged into the reporting purpose. So both are in single merged processor. Then here all now in SAP S4 HANA, like earlier in ECC, for each fields or for each modules, there were different tables maintained. But here we work with one universal journal or one universal table, or we can call it as it is being compressed into single database table, which is nothing but AC Doka, which is also called as universal journal in our curve. Now we are working with a compressed database table, which is called as AC Doka, Universal Journal Table here. So we can view all the details of your particular modules in one table itself. And this is also called as total faculty text table also. But here in ECC, for each different module, we used to work on different database tables like BKPF, BSCG, different tables, document table tables. And here we work with in-memory database as well as on-premise edition and as well as cloud versions. So we do have different deployment options over here. Like we can even go for premise editions or as well as cloud versions. We will be seeing what is the premise as well as the cloud differences in this coming slides. But in ECC, we had an only version, like we used to depend on only one database server. There was no cloud enhancement in ECC. Now let's see what are the key differences between your SAP HANA as well as S4 HANA. So we just learned the difference between your SAP ECC and SAP S4 HANA, which is nothing but Simple Finance HANA. Now we will be seeing what are the key differences between SAP HANA and S4 HANA, which is nothing but Simple Finance HANA. So firstly, we would be discussing about SAP HANA, which says SAP HANA is high performance analytical appliance So basically SAP HANA is an application. So that we need to understand. So SAP HANA is nothing but it is a high performance analytical appliance and it is an application. It is not an in-memory database or it is not a suite. And here when we talk about SAP S4 HANA, it is a SAP's next generation business suite. So it is one of the next generation business suite which is very much designed to help you run simple in a digital and networked world. So here the difference is SAP HANA is a application, whereas S4 HANA is your business suite, which is designed to help or run a simple way, and it should be in a digital manner through a different networking operations. Here in SAP HANA, it uses in-memory database technology that allows the processing of massive amounts of real-time data in a short time. So here it is, as we know that SAP ECC was working on SAP HANA database. So obviously it is also a database technology which is used to process the massive amounts, very large amount of data, and that to a real-time data in a very short time. So it is a database. Obviously the feature of the database is SAP in memory, and that is also one of the advantage why SAP was in demand when we compare to the other ERPs available. Whereas S4 HANA, it is a new suite itself. So S4 HANA itself is a new suite which was built on different or advanced in-memory platform. So it is built on advanced level of platform. That is why now the organizations are migrating from SAP ECC to S4 HANA, where it has an advanced level of in-memory platform and advanced level of user experience. So here SAP HANA is in-memory computing engine which allows HANA to process data stored in RAM. So here basically HANA database requires your hardware technology or hardware peripherals, where the RAM, the data used to save in the RAM as opposed to reading it from a disk. So when the reading process comes in, it is an in-memory computing process, and it allows the software, or it allows the database to process data stored in RAM as opposed to opposed to read it from a disk. But here what it happens is it doesn't require any hardware. The data is totally sold or totally stored in the cloud version, and it offers us a personalized user experience with SAP Fiori interface. So here we need not depend on any RAM. The data storage is totally on the cloud version. Now let's see what are the differences between your SAP on-premises as well as the SAP uh, cloud version. So basically, we will be seeing what is the SAP on-premises and SAP cloud version here. Yeah. So before we enter into the actual package or the actual software, we should also be in a position to know what is the differences between this, right? So for that sake, here first we will be learning what are the difference between your cloud version data as well as your on-premises data. So here we will be seeing. So let's see what is on-premises uh, data, and let's see what is cloud data. Yes. Now let's see on-premises. So SAP on-premises is nothing but it requires purchase. Now business has to purchase its own license from SAP and has to completely manage the deployment options, as well as maintenance also should be done by the business itself. So basically SAP has got the versions which we also know it. One is premise, on-premise solutions, as well as on-cloud solutions. So when it comes to SAP on-premise, what is that? It is nothing but it requires purchase of own license. So the business itself has to purchase the license, and the planning, as well as the the maintenance, as well as the management, the deployment options have to be taken care by the business itself. Whereas when you talk about the SAP on cloud versions or on cloud solutions, it is a provision of ERP. So it is not that the customer or the business is not going to buy the license and not going to maintain the options or deployment options on its own, but here it is a provision of ERP system given by SAP itself to the business on a subscription model. So basically it happens on a subscription model, the cloud version. And here, SAP on-premises has to plan when the business or the customer purchases own license and will be working on on-premise solutions. So he himself has to plan system requirements like is the plan sizing, his deployment options, and the installation procedures, hardware requirements, as well as the storage capacity, as well how many number of users are going to work on this on-premise solutions. All the this information have to be given to the licensor, that is SAP. Based on that, the license will be issued to us, and every in and out of the primary solutions have to be taken care by the business itself. So here the number of users what we purchase or what the business purchases, it can be based on the current as well as the future based. So he has to anticipate the future based users also and purchase the users right now here on on-premise solution, on-premises solutions. And here it requires upfront, or it requires upfront investment, which is a very high cost intensive, where the investment is also high because you purchase license and you're going to maintain everything or maintain all the deployment options on it on your own itself. So here the investment is also high. The upfront whatever investment we are going to make it, and as upfront investment, that is also very high. When we talk about investment, here the setup time is also equally high. So setup time, the whatever the setup, the implementation process, or the setup time of your on-premise solution software is also very high, as well as manageability. The manageability, because we are purchasing these license and we are maintaining our own deployment options. So all the risks as well as the manageability lies with the business itself. So here the setup time is also very high. When we come to cloud, as I said, it is a provision of ERP given by SAP. So it is basically a provision of ERP given by SAP system or SAP Germany to the business on subscription model. So we do subscribe here the cloud versions, and basically cloud versions mostly acquire instead of upfront investment. Here we go with the IT infrastructure. So we maintain a high quality of IT infrastructure as well as the IT teams. And in this way, we are minimizing here is the investment process. And the cost of investment also very low when compared to SAP on-premises solutions. And here there is no time for the setup. So there I can say negligible time for your setup. So there is no time, negligible time to set up your solutions. And for what? it is for your IT infrastructure. So it doesn't require much time for your setup time to maintain your IT infrastructure. And here business follows SAP best practices. So here we follow SAP. When the subscriber uses the SAP on cloud permissions or on cloud solutions, then the business will follow SAP best practices and will only pay for the existing needs. So here when compared to on-premises, we used to pay the users, or we have to pay for the current as well as the future based users. But here, as it is working on the subscription model, and as well we depend on the SAP best practices, we pay only for the users subscribed for the present need. And as on when need requires in the future, we would be working, or we would be purchasing in the future itself. So basically, it has the client or the business has two options to go on: the premise solutions as well as the on cloud solutions, and both of the solutions has the same objective, that to run the SAP on the Fiori based app or Fiori based interface and give you the in-memory platform and equally high database management. Now, we will be learning what are the SAP different industry solutions available. So basically, SAP has got different industry solutions, like it is diversified into wholesale, oil and gas, professional services, automotives, retail, public sector, high-tech solutions, utilities. Nowadays, SAP industry solutions is also compatible for your utilities industry based, banking, travel management, transportation, mining industries, insurance, as well as your consumer products like FMCG products. Also, this SAP S4 HANA is the best software, what we can call it as the industry best suits for this. So basically, these are the different types of industry solutions where SAP S4 HANA can be implemented. Now, everything we have learned, the differences, the advantages, right? Now we will be seeing what are the reasons or what are the benefits if an organization implements S4 HANA, or if an organization migrates from SAP ECC to S4 HANA. So we will be seeing those differences here now. It has got enhanced ease of use. So here the user friendly, the use of the software is very easily, as well as it is an enhanced version of SAP. So not only the utility is a very user friendly, but also it is in an enhanced manner, the SAP S4 HANA implementation. And simplicity. Yes, it has not that got a jargon language or a jargon terminology where the user may not be in a position to understand. But yes, it is in a very simple language or a very simplicity model performed, where in a no time, in a negligible time, we can view the reports itself in a very simplified manner. Modernization. Yes, compared to the other softwares, or compared to the other solutions, SAP ERP or SAP S4 HANA has been modernized into different levels. Like we can view the segment wise reporting, like not only in one currency, we can view the reports in two different currencies also. Earlier in SAP ECC, we used to work with three different currencies, but now in S4 HANA, we can work with more than 10 different currencies. That means you can view your report, one report or one time reporting into 10 plus different currencies project. Nothing but you can view your project currency into 10 plus different currencies. Then yes, it is a very future innovative product, or a future innovative solutions, the SAP S4 HANA. And yes, unlike your ECC, SAP S4 HANA has two-time application scenarios. One is into your cloud version as well as into on-premise version, which we have just analyzed it. Then Here, as the speed is high, the S4HANA, and as well as it is an in-memory database, faster month-end closing activities. So it is not taking much time to close your month-end provisions or to close your closing activities, year-end closing activities. It is a very faster pace. And yes, universal journal, one of the important advantage of SAP S4 HANA implementation is the data is maintained in one single table, which is also called as universal journal, which is maintained in AC Doka table. And yes, it is a speed reporting as well as real-time reporting. So these are few advantages or few reasons, or I can say few benefits if an organizations implement S4 HANA. We do have many more advantages. We will be learning in the sessions one by one with an example. Now we will be seeing what are the responsibilities of a consultant. So when SAP S4 HANA consultant, what is this? Now here in SAP S4 HANA, uh, in SAP ECC, a finance consultant has to work on GLs, that is general ledgers, accounts payable, accounts receivable, taxation, banking, asset accounting, etc. Here in SAP S4 HANA, it is just merged with general ledgers, accounts payable, and accounts receivable. Whereas when you talk about the bank management or bank accounting, it is now segregated as into cash and liquidity management. So, which is, a diversified product of SAP, which SAP S4 HANA Finance includes your GLs, accounts payable, accounts receivable, and new asset accounting. But when we talk about bank and cash management, it all falls in your cash and liquidity management as well as the SAP treasury management. So that is different version. We will be learning in our sessions like how the modules are segregated and what are the modules are implemented now in what are the modules given in SAP S4 HANA Finance and what extra modules are added. We will be learning that. Now here we will also be seeing what is the migration process as well as the planning and consolidation. So how are you migrating ECC GL's data to new version, that is your S4 HANA database, and migration of accounts payable to S4 HANA, migration of accounts receivable to S4 HANA, migration of old asset accounting to SAP new asset accounting as well. We will also be learning the planning and consolidation. Planning and consolidation is totally different, called as greenfield implementation. Nothing but you do from scratch the configuration parameters. So both the things equally we will be learning here, and we will also will be learning the what are the cash analyzers, treasury analyzers, and the reports through Fiori. So basically, then if you're working as an SAP S4 consultant, what are your responsibilities of your project? It is a financial configuration based on business requirements. So as an SAP S4 HANA finance consultant, simple finance consultant, you have to maintain the total financial configuration, which is based on your business requirements, which will be given for you in the BBP. BBP is like business blueprint. So based on the business blueprint, we maintain the financial configuration, and yes, the training the users. So we also train the users in executing the data. So SAP Simple Finance HANA consultant will as also the as like one of the project support project where we train the users in executing the data in a user friendly manner. We the other responsibility also is like we guide the other consultants like materials management, production planning, plant maintenance modules, the integration of data, how the integration of data takes place in SAP Simple Finance with your materials management as well as production planning, plant maintenance modules. Here we are going to learn it. Then we would also see what are the business warehouse executing process in the projects. Nothing but we execute the reports through your SAP business warehouse interface, Fiori interface reporting with an OLTP or as OLAP versions, techniques. And here the consultant opportunity or the consultant responsibility is also to offer support and preparation for the documentation process. Yes, here we also maintain the support as well as the preparation for your documentation. So what are the documentations we are going to maintain here? We're going to learn here this. It is also one of the responsibility of a consultant to maintain the user exit copies as well as the documentation preparation of your project. So in the course, we will be learning about the migration process, which I've already discussed right now. We will also be learning of the overview of your consolidation and planning prospects. We will be learning about the new GL concepts. We'll be learning about the document splitting, overview of SAP Fiori app, how we are going to use the SAP Fiori interface in reporting. We'll be learning about the universal journal, and the other most important is the configuration of your end-to-end implementation project, as well overview of your FSM treasury management and FSCM credit management, so that it would be added a great weightage to your profile. So here we will be learning FSCM overview like financial supply chain management on treasury, as well as FSCM on cash and liquidity management. So few terminologies related to cash analyzer, so real-time data reporting. This we will be learning in our session. So maybe in our next session, we will be learning about the overview of the topics as well as the table configurations here. So hope it was my video helped you to know what exactly is SAP, or what exactly is the difference between your S4 HANA as well as your many more things, S4 HANA difference as well as your ACC. Thank you.